move to motion D and ask Warden Cormack to come forward.
Warden Cormack, 50. I remember that one fairly easily, it's the same as my age. Moving that motion D on behalf of Executive. Congress, recent research estimates there are between about 80,000 and 120,000 young carers in Scotland. 29% of young adult carers have had to drop out of university or college due to pressure of being a carer. And every year, 48 school days are affected due to caring duties. I hate to bamboozle everybody with statistics here, but there are a few more statistics to come out of this. 26% of young adult carers in schools had experienced bullying due to being young carers. And about 49% of young adult carers leaving education have no positive destinations. Quite a worrying set of statistics. As a guidance teacher, I find it very worrying that many young carers in our schools can go identified. We're able to identify many pupils with additional support needs, but somehow our young carers seem to slip through the net. Now, there was additional support legislation makes it necessary for pupils to provide additional support, or for schools to provide additional support to pupils with any barriers to education. But how can we as educators provide support when we don't know what the barriers are when they're slipping through the net? It doesn't end there, because beyond school, young adult carers in work miss about 17 days per year and have a further 79 days affected due to carers' responsibilities. And about 45% of young adult carers report having mental health problems. This research shows that young adult carers experience alarming difficulties in education and employment prospects, as well as their health and well-being. Being a young carer seriously impacts on educational attainment. Now, they've not been properly identified and supported, which means they face barriers that have a real and lasting impact in their future. And we need to ensure that young adult carers are protected from excessive caring responsibilities and can put their energy into education, employment and training. Now, we'd be asking for improved identification of and support of young carers at the earliest stage, anti-bullying and mental health support for young adult carers, entitlement to education maintenance allowance. We must ensure that our young adult carers are not hindered in any way to provide a decent life for themselves. Colleagues, I urge you, please support the motion.
And seconder?
I'll tell you who I am this time. Janine McCulloch, Delegate 45. In society in general, we tend to be very supportive of those people or groups of people who need our care, whether it be physical, medical, psychological, psychiatric, financial. But unfortunately, we aren't as good at supporting those who are the carers. Young caring was initially considered a social issue, so it wasn't until the 1990s that they started really researching young carers and their educational experience, and what they found about their educational difficulties that they experienced as a direct result of their caring roles. These difficulties could be measurable in terms of punctuality, attendance, problems with coursework or homework, or low attainment. But the less obvious difficulties faced by young carers could be things, as Ward's already mentioned, being bullied, difficulties joining their peers in extracurricular activities, which results in restricted peer networks and everything that goes with that, underperformance in general across school, anxiety, fatigue, which leads to lack of concentration, attention in school. And inevitably, in some cases, this results in behavioural issues within school. It's very difficult to tie pupils' caring role directly to any of these issues, but what the research absolutely does show is that young carers encounter more educational difficulties than pupils who do not perform a caring role. These educational difficulties, a poor school record including absenteeism, poor timekeeping, etc., and no or low qualifications when they leave, can make transition to the world of work much more challenging. So the difficulties can be life-altering and lifelong. Many of you will recognise these difficulties as really similar to those faced by looked after and accommodated young people. And you'll also know the vast array of supports that are currently in place to try to equalise these opportunities for looked after and accommodated young people so that they can try to keep track educationally with their peer group. We would like to see, through this motion, greater recognition of the difficulties faced by young carers and a parity of support for young carers that is received by similar groups, like, for example, looked after and accommodated young people. So I urge you to support this motion.
Are there any further contributions to the motion from the floor? Okay. Right, we'll move to the vote. Those in favour, please show. Against? Abstentions? Unanimous. Thank you, Congress.